Hey everybody, it's Katherine. Welcome to my channel. So if you have just found me on Twitter, welcome. I'm so glad to have you to my channel. And if you have come to enjoy what I say on Twitter, then you're going to enjoy these videos even more, because today is going to be Twitter times a million. So I haven't given you guys a health update. I haven't given you a procedure update, and that is for a couple of reasons. Number one, for those of you who don't know, I had a procedure back in December. I had, I was getting injections into my SI joint, which is your sacroiliac joint, and my disability, they're still trying to figure out why. There's a lot of things wrong with me. I have a lot of doctors. But it's been going on now. It's been going on for 8 years, and it started there. I've had about 3 car accidents, but the last one really took me out. It was a very bad car accident. Well, the second one was really bad, and then the third one just took me out. My head went through a window, and my hips were crushed. And then that was different. The doctors didn't do anything. The first 2 accidents, the doctors did things, not as much as they should have, but the last accident, the doctors literally didn't do anything. And I understand that now. I understand why that is now. And that's part of what this video is about. So that was 8 years ago. And one of the things is, my head went through a window. And one of the things, if you do the research on concussions, if you see all these NFL players and if you see the movie Concussion, which I highly recommend, one of the things you'll see is that if a concussion goes untreated, a person's body will start to swell and go into an inflammatory disease. And there are so many different inflammatory diseases, and it's hard to diagnose any of them. But the one thing that happens is that in their inability to diagnose you, the person gets extremely sick, they cannot work, and they usually get bedridden, they usually have seizures. It's head to toe chaos. Their entire body goes off the rails. And I remember I didn't know any of that when I had a concussion, but when I had that severe injury, they left me in a room for 6 hours alone. They didn't give me any ice. They didn't give me any ibuprofen. They just left me in a room in the dark alone. And my husband was like, "Can we get some ice?" My head was just swelling. It swelled so much to the point that you could actually feel there was a line, the brain reverberated so hard that there was a lump on this side. And it took 2 years for the swelling to go down. So you can imagine, no, it took a lot longer than that. I think it took four years for when you touch my head not to be tender anymore. That can screw up your system. And that just tells you what happened to my head, not the rest of my body. So you can just imagine. Now, what's interesting is that they just left me, and they gave me no instructions, and they just said, is it what do I do? What's the procedure? And they just told me go back to work. And I told them, I am doing this. And one of the things that I was doing for work at the time was, as a dance teacher in the evening. And I was traveling about 2,200 miles a week at that time. A week. I had one job over here where I did business consulting, and on the side I did, so I was consulting for all these businesses in Silicon Valley, and then on the other side, in the evenings, I would teach dancing with thumping music going on, which would take the swelling in my head and just make it much worse, until I ran into a girl who had a concussion in Europe. And she was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I was swelling before their eyes. I didn't realize it. She showed me pictures later, because we had some usually everywhere I went, they had professional photographers. But she made me look at them, because by that point, I had been teaching for so long, I never paid attention to them. But she showed me, and she's like, "Look at yourself." And I was just white and swollen. Now, when I had noticed that, when the accident first happened, I knew it was bad. I went to doctor after doctor. I went in all over the state. I went all over the state. And I kept going to doctors because I was like, this is bad. My eyesight dramatically changed in one eye on this side and all these things. And the doctors just kept saying, "Well, you look great." They kept arguing with me. And that is something that is still happening today. And you guys who are sick have noticed this, is that doctors will now argue with you today. They will now tell you, they will monitor your speech, they will regulate your words, they will point out words that you say, and they will say, oh, well, why are you saying that? And oh, no, you should talk more positively. They will always negate your sickness. They will always negate your pain. They will always negate, like they will always say, but things are so good when you're there because you're so sick. And that's really what I want to talk to you today about. So the point is now 8 years later, the medical industry is basically, I'm not working. I'm not, so our wealth is not, our wealth is completely depleted and our savings are gone. And a third of my husband's paycheck, a third, the rest of it, the other, like 2/3, like that's it. That's it. Like another third goes to the house. That's it. The other third just goes to living expenses. So that's why we are completely like, And for those of you who are like, why don't you ask your friends for it? Like, boss people don't do that. Like, that's a lesson, you know, from the boss. Like, that's why you hear people get torn down, like, oh, they leaned on the banks or whatever. They look down on that because you're supposed to, like, you earn your own keep, which is why when I ask for donations, like, that's because I worked. That's because I'm providing value to you. And if you want more videos, I'm like, please help me support this channel because I work hard. I improve your lives. I help you save money. I bring power to your lives. And I pretty much play the job of a performance coach. I give you power. I empower you, which is exactly what a life coach does. I tell you things no one else in the media is telling you. I give you insider dirt, which is exactly what people in Silicon Valley are paying $2,500 an hour to do. And that's what you do, is that then you want the channel to keep going, and then you support it with donations, or and pretty much all my stuff just goes to, the medical bills, which, by the way, you guys have been amazing. Like, I got some of the medical bills back today, and you guys have, like, halved some of them. And some ones that we have just been, we've been putting off for, like, 3 years now, and you guys have them. I can't even tell you, like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, continuing on. The bottom line is that I was more money. You know how they take up those things with GE cars, and we keep finding out all these industries like the cigarette industry, the GE industry, and all these industries. They do these cost analysis, and they want to see like how much money they can make if they take out this part. Well, if we leave in this faulty part, like really how much is it going to cost us to replace the part, or how much is it going to cost us in lawsuits to settle the accidents that happen? Well, the reason the treatment was so different when I first had an accident versus like all these years later when I had another accident, when they just left me in there, is because a concussion is not a broken bone. They can't say, oh, we didn't heal it. They can just say, oh, you can't really see a concussion. It's very hard to say. It's very hard. Concussions are, that's why so many people, if you watch those NFL players, they're so sick at the end. Like they get all these horrible illnesses. Like look up the NFL players and how sick they are at the end of lives. That's because the concussions just kick your body's butt when they go untreated. But guess who gets all the money is the medical industry. And so it had been figured out that I was worth more money to them just sitting on a table. And you're like, oh, but doctors would never do that. And this is where I want to talk to you. I need to wake you up to something. We have 1 million pain clinics out there. Everyone who attends, this is why I said this is the truth about pain clinics. It is. This is the truth about pain clinics. And I should have said that at the beginning. It is. Let me tell you the truth about pain clinics. The truth about pain clinics is they didn't exist until OxyContin was released. We didn't have pain clinics. Why do you think that is? Why were they so confident that they could release OxyContin? And why did people suddenly, you think we just magically got into pain? You think the world just was like, oh my God, I'm hurting. No, I have an amazing documentary below. Oh God, I hope YouTube didn't remove it in their censorship suite. So please find my tweet about like, if you are sick of the Twitter censorship. I did post a tweet how they're telling everyone to like, drop the sponsors of all these people for reporting real news, or drop the sponsors of the NRA or whatever. And I'm so not an NRA member, but I am like, everyone has freedom. Like, I'm just kind of like, you can boycott something, but everyone does when they don't sign up for the NRA. That is boycotting. But like they constantly ask for censorship, like ask Amazon to take down all channels that are NRA. And I'm like, that's what state-run media is. That's North Korea saying, you know, you can't see the Olympics. Don't choose for us what we can and cannot see. That's our right to see whatever we want. And I'm just like, that's what we did for the Million Man March, is we had every nationality doing the Million Man March. It wasn't just black people who did the Million Man March. We all did it because it was their civil rights that were under fire. And I'm just kind of like, when you ask for censorship and banning, that's our civil rights under fire. So yeah, I'm going to fight for it. So I'm just kind of like, if you keep taking away sponsors for everyone who is exhibiting civil rights, then, you know, fine. Then go after Twitter sponsors. And I posted their 100 top 100s Twitter sponsors. And it's like Coca-Cola and Chevron and things like that. So go find that tweet. So anyway, so moving on. So anyway, yeah, so you're what pain clinics didn't exist? How can pain clinics suddenly exist? How can they get us into pain? I'll tell you how they get us into pain. They stopped doing procedures. They just phased out procedures. They just phased them out. When's the last time you heard of someone getting spine surgery? They just phased out all procedures having to do with nerves. When's the last time you heard? They just started releasing things saying spine surgery is so painful, it usually doesn't work, it's usually so bad. But like my own nurse, I found out she had spine surgery. She gets to walk around, she gets to work. And she has had the very thing that I need. Like, I'm like, oh, great, I don't have my legs. So anyway, let me get to what I'll try and find the documentary and I'll post it below about when, right before Oxycontin was released, suddenly the medical industry just magically stopped doing, you know, everyone started getting into pain because all the procedures that used to alleviate pain for people and treated nerves, because that's what Oxycontin and all these pain relievers do, is they treat nerve pain. No one used to be on all these drugs long term, but they make a hell of a lot more money if we're on the drugs. Remember I said I've had 33 doctors? Do you know what those doctors do most of the time? They take a look at my chart and they see how many drugs I'm on. They realize they can't put me on another drug that they'll get a kickback on. Look it up. There is a John Oliver documentary where he actually told the truth, where the research is real because HBO launched him telling real stuff so we build trust, and then they started their state-run sponsored things. Like they started doing their total brainwashing thing. Like I'm watching Showtime because of Homeland, which is all written by women, by the way, and it's absolutely amazing. It's so on the money. And so I'm like flipping through the other channels and I'm like, oh, I hate all this stuff. And I was like, I thought I loved this channel. I was like, no, that's Stars. This is Showtime. And I remember hating everything. And I was like, remember how I said on Twitter, I was like, how do I get indoctrinated? How did all this extreme stuff or this extreme side get to me? Like, how do they make me scared to say all these things? And I was like, it's all the programming. Like, it's all the programming. They silence you through it. And you know what's so interesting about that show, Billions? Did you notice that in Billions, it's the billionaires who have the marriage that they don't step outside of? It's the billionaires who have home values. It's the billionaires who have the office where no one is actually taking cocaine or anything like that. And if they do, they go to get treatment. It's the billionaires who have qualms about making the right decision. And we know that's not true. We have so many documentaries from those people on Wall Street themselves. They live the exact 180. But in that show, it's the district attorney who does stuff like that. And I'm just like, you don't think that's programming to make you feel like, oh, I'm living the rich and famous life, but they actually shouldn't be hated? You think that isn't something telling us that we shouldn't actually hate the wealthy, that they're just playing the American capitalism game? And that, it wasn't until season 2, episode 6, that they actually told the truth, that they actually did this attribution thing or whatever, or something where they take everyone, they're like wiping out American towns where they're just taking their town halls. And the boss people, the people before that, used to know that that would just wipe out American society and wipe out the fabric of America. But people today don't care about that. They know they're going to die, and they know the next generation they're not going to be around for the next generation. And they're just kind of like, nope. So we are back to a Titanic society. When you watch Titanic, if you watch the movie Titanic, which should be in Interstellar movies, you will see that there are the haves and the have-nots. We used to be like this. We used to be two different societies. And the society up here thought the society down here wasn't worth the same air that they breathe. They were like, oh, these people they shouldn't even breathe the same air that we do. Remember, they like locked the gates on them when the ship was flooding because they were like, you don't even deserve to be in our life rafts. And guess what they have on Billions? They're like, oh, they shouldn't breathe the same air that we do. Those people don't even have the right to stand in the same air. Like, they're just meat. And I'm like, well, that's the truth. Like, and I was like, gosh, I've heard that talk before. I haven't heard it since 1913, like when the Titanic sank. And I'm like, that's right. Because after 1913, when that sunk, like that really changed a lot of wealth. And that is when middle class America started. You guys don't know that. But that was the end of like the wealthy and the have and the have-nots. That ended after the Titanic. The middle class began after the Titanic. And it took them 100 years, but we're back to that. We are back to that. And shows like Billions make us think that they're not. They make us think that, oh, really, they're just a fighting chance. And when they make all those trades, they even say it on the show. They're not hurting anybody. It's just capitalism. They're not hurting. No, that's not true. Every time they do insider trading and every time they take a tip, guess who they're taking all that money from? They're taking money from your parents, your jobs, they're wiping out the Walmarts in their towns. You're making it ghost towns. They're taking it right out of the middle class, right out. They're just robbing it. And we are going to be exactly what Adam Schiff said. We are going to be a fascist Mussolini society and a welfare state. But let me ask you this. You know what they always say about welfare states? You know what they say? You guys always think, like they tell you young people with the resistance school, they say, well, we'll just tax the wealthy. I have news for you. I have news for you. The wealthy aren't here. They keep all their stuff, including the senators, including Congress. They don't keep their wealth here. They keep it offshore. Look up the Panama Papers. They're not taxing the wealthy to pay for this 2/3 healthcare budget, 2/3 welfare budget, and the 2/3 SSI budget. That's not who's paying for the welfare system. It's you and your paycheck that's paying for the welfare system. I'm like, are you kidding me? They're not paying for it. They're overseas. This whole thing of like make the top 400 people who own all the world's wealth. You know what they never say to you? Those 400 people don't live in the U.S. We've got like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. And why do you think they donate this itty bitty thing? To keep your eye off the fact that everything they have is not here, so that we don't touch it. Yeah. Anyway, going back to healthcare and going back to school, like going back to right now. So why am I going on a tear? Like, why am I going off and getting all sweaty and everything like that? Because I just get this itty bitty feeling like I waited the 2 months, like my procedure. It was a rough freaking procedure that I had, rough as heck. And I finally had my doctor's appointments to come back from it. Now, what have the results been? Have I been able to walk? No, I have not been able to walk. I have not been able to walk. Have I been able to walk like I used to before all this? No, I have not. It did not bring me the results I thought. When I did that block before, the something block or whatever, can't remember the name of it, but when I did that block, I was able to walk. So I asked them, I went to my first doctor, one of my doctors, she's a pelvic pain specialist, and I said to her, why didn't that work? Why did the CRFA, the ablation, why did the ablation not do the same thing? And it turns out that the ablation was on a narrower area, and the block, because they numbed so much, it covered a wider area. And she was like, and then she got really detailed with me. It was a really, really good visit. It was amazing. Like, because she was like, well, you've come so far. And I think it's these videos that have really helped me, because I fought like heck in there. I really fought. I was like, she's like, you've come so far. And I know she thinks that I've come far because she's seen me lose a lot of weight. And so she's like, oh, you've come so far. And I have uncurled in the mornings. Like I used to be pinned to my bed, curled like a ball, and I've uncurled. And I'm no longer nauseous. I don't throw up my diet food. But I was like, but I'm still in pain. Like from the day I came to her, they asked what my pain level is, and it was at an 8. Every day I go in, I'm at a level 8 pain. That hasn't changed. It is, and I'm going to a pain clinic, and I'm like, the pain is still bad. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I'm still in bed. Like, I'm still pinned down in bed. And she's like, well, what is walking like? And I said, I scream. Like, I scream, but I push it, and I try and walk, and then my legs give out beneath me, and then I collapse. And she had me stand up, and like I stood up, and she actually watched the mechanics and the whole thing, which she hadn't done before. And she finally like listened, and it was so great. And she's like, all right, let's get the tailbone done. And I was like, oh, actually, yeah, the tailbone is on fire. Like the tailbone feels like it has this hot, like if you take a fire poker out, like a poker right out of the fire, it feels like that's my tailbone. My tailbone is always like a hot fire poker. And when they did the block, I remember when it eased it, I remember specifically being in the room being, oh, that feels so good, when the pain went away from the tailbone. And I said, yes, actually. And I was like, huh, that's amazing. And she's like, and you'll have it done at this other place with this other guy who did your CRFA. And I was like, that's great. And my husband was like, we have him next week. And I go in the next week, and I am excited. And for the next week, I'm paying attention to my tailbone. And I'm noticing that I'm suddenly able to do my Pilates work. For the first time in 8 years, I'm suddenly able to do my Pilates date, because I like the day I hit 2 months of the December 16th, the day I hit February 16th, like February 17th, I was able to do mat Pilates work. But let me tell you what that means. I'm not able to sit up like this. There's a reason I'm sitting up here, because I get to hold on to 2 tables. I can't sit by that. That's a secret. Like, I'm not up by that chest of things, not because I wanted to change backgrounds. I'm sitting here because I can't sit up there. That requires me to sit up higher, and it requires me to have more strength. This has a hell of a lot more padding, and it hurts too much. Like, I'm disintegrating. Like, my area of bone down there is every time they do an MRI over the last 8 years, that area of bone is just disintegrating more and more and more. The less they treat it, like, it gets worse and worse and worse. But they just go into my file and they're like, oh, you're on all these drugs. Well, I can't help you. And I actually had a doctor when I went in. I was recommended like 2 years ago to get an ablation right in the area that I just got it, that enabled me to do a Pilates mat exercise. And I went into that spine doctor, and he looked at me and he touched my legs, and I was like, huh? And he said to me, he said, the only thing that can ever fix that is a pill. And I just stared at him in awe. Like, are you kidding me? He is like, the only hope for you is a pill. No, look at me. Like, my leg, they did the injection. Then after that, we did the injection. After my research, I got the injection after my research, after my incentive. I found out about the SI joint. I did the research. They do the injection, and voila, all my legs go away. Which, by the way, from the very first day of the accident, I went into a doctor. I went into a neurologist. And I said, and he's like, well, what's the problem? Right after the accident. And I said, my legs have swollen. Like, my legs were this normal color, and they have swollen, and they're white. Like, there's something wrong with my legs. Like, something's wrong. Like, look. And you know what he said to me? He said the very denial. He was like, oh, like, those look like healthy. Look at that skin. It's so healthy to me. Now, you want to know why? Okay, so anyway, so I go into my next doctor, and he does the 8-year shuffle. He goes, you know, she's a brilliant doctor. Now, I'm sitting there. I'm unable to sit up. Like, I'm laying down. He has a bed, and I'm laying down. And I show him that I can do the knee things. And then he just goes, I don't think that it's this thing on your tailbone. And my face just drops. He's like, I think you need biofeedback. And I just was like, what? But even worse, he wanted me to be happy about it. We spent I can't believe he spent like the next half hour, like he spent way longer, but we had like a rumble in the Bronx. Like, I fought, you guys. And it's because of these videos, because I see myself and I watch them again, and I get your feedback, and I'm realizing like what's happening and what's going on in my body. And like, I'm not fighting for myself enough in there. And I'm like, and he was like, and so let me start over again. Like, I walk in there and I'm calm and I'm happy. And they take my blood pressure. And my blood pressure, those are my meds, but I already took them ahead of time to be ready for this. My blood pressure when I get in there is 105/54. That's how calm I am. I am that happy. Like, I am calm. I'm ready. You know, my pain level's pretty high, but at this point after the CRFA, it's only ever gotten to a 7, like when I go into appointments, which is great. It's a huge improvement. I rarely go into a pain clinic at a 7. So I'm like, we are making progress. So we go in there, and I'm calm. And then when I start to give him feedback, he's like, let's hurry it up. Like, I don't have much time. You need to move it. And I was like, oh. Now, what you need to understand is after 8 years, like, I started well, but the longer these doctors take to solve me, the worse I get. Like, my doctor before that, she was like, but you've come so far. But I thought about it later, and I was like, I started with you better, and I've gotten worse. Like, I was getting worse and worse and worse. I used to be more mobile when I first went to her. Like, I'd start in the morning worse. The only way I improved was I lost weight. But as far as mobility, when I started with her, I was driving in the front seat sitting up. Now I'm not. I'm in a car bed. Like, that's getting worse. That's not getting better. And then I had seizures after that. Like, I'm not getting better. I'm like, they're not listening. Anyway, so it was a horrible knockdown, drag out. And here's just what I want to say is that doctors, because I'm running out of time, there used to be a time, if you've seen Gone with the Wind, there used to be a time where you saw doctors like in Gone with the Wind, and you saw them treating the Southern soldiers who had to have their legs cut off, and all the doctors would go throughout, and these soldiers would be in terrible pain, and the doctors would be quiet and gentle and just be like, we're going to get you out of pain now. We're going to do what's best for you. We're going to get you out of pain. And they were just so compassionate, so loving, getting out of pain. The only people in this world that do that anymore are vets. Because if I was a dog, they would have done something for me. They would have done something for my tailbone. And instead, do you know what my doctor did? When I was like, oh, if I don't get this appointment in, if I don't get all my feedback in when he said, hurry it up, I will have another 3 months before I see him again. And this CRFA will only last me 6 to 9 months, right? So I'm like, I got to get in my feedback. So I start like really rumbling. And then he's like, oh, calm down. And then he starts doing yoga breaths with me. And he's like, I think we should try yoga breaths and biofeedback. As if like my problem, and I was like, you are passing me off again. And I couldn't believe it. He refused. He refused to do the tailbone. And I was in shock. And I said, why aren't we doing the tailbone and biofeedback? Like, why aren't you getting me to the point? Because he's like, well, your range of motion has improved so much. I said, because we had treated one area. You know, if you get the tailbone, we know that I can walk. You know I have the ability to walk. And he's like, well, procedures do so much. And I want to tell you why doctors are doing this. You want to know why doctors have changed? Because every one of these hospitals, every one of these doctors, they tell me about how many parties they go to paid by big pharma. And I walk in every day. I have to go into a doctor. I have to walk by another pharmaceutical rep. And these doctors are receiving money. The only people in their ears day in and day out is big pharma and big, huge insurance companies who tell them day in and day out that your patients are actually healthy. It's just a change of mind. It's a mindset. And so he walked out like thinking that I just needed to change my mindset. I just needed to speak more positively. Do you know doctors don't put their hands on you anymore? It took me 3 years to get my other doctor to actually feel my hip. They don't put their hands on you anymore. They just listen to you and say, oh, you just said just right there. You just said, I need you to be 100% happy about this. When you are sitting there crying out in pain and saying, I am being tortured every single day. If you can't tell your doctor that you are in pain, like I told him, I said, after 8 years of this, after 8 years of doctors saying, no, it's this, they are telling me 50 different ways of anything but actually touching my body. Anything to keep me on the pills, anything to keep me going back to the doctor, anything to pay $50 a visit so that a third of my paycheck goes. He's like, well, I want to get you on a permanent fix, not something temporary. And I was like, yeah, not something temporary so I can walk again and build up my leg strength and build up my body strength like you told me to do with this CRFA. You said this is so you can do physical therapy. So I'm like, what you don't get is that I can lay down and I can do Pilates things, but I can't actually sit up. Do you know how hard it takes me all week to be able to sit up? The one time I'm actually physically able to sit up is the time I tape with you. Because if I'm able to sit up, I tape. I tape because it's the one time I get to socialize. And he walked out of this room like, oh, I've converted someone. And I was just like, you jerk, you get to walk out. And your job, you took an oath to try to get me to walk. You took an oath to try to get me to walk. And I'm sitting here with all my bones fusing. And if I was a dog, you would give me what he, and you know, he had audacity to say to me, he was like, it would be so easy to give you an injection. It would be so easy for me to give you an injection. I could give you an injection right now. It would be so easy for me to do that. It'd be so easy to do that though. And I just sat there like watching my CRFA just wasted those two months, those 2 months of suffering just completely wasted, and my ability to walk just wasted. That is the truth of pain clinics, is just to keep you on pain meds and make you feel like crap. And they will tell you all the time, oh, we see so many addicts come in. Why do you think that is? Ask how many people in a pain clinic have actually done a procedure. Ask all your friends how many procedures they've actually done. The only procedure I ever get is a knee injection. That's it. And they'll keep doing knee injections. And you know what? I was thinking about it. You know why I don't have to have surgery on my knee anymore? Because I went to an acupuncturist. And you know what Wikipedia says about acupuncture? It says it's junk science. If it's junk science, then why are pain clinics and all the insurance companies paying for it? Why do you think Wikipedia says it's junk science when half of the civilized world uses it? Why did my knee never get fixed after 8 years? Like, it was bad. I hurt it 3 years before the accident, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I went to doctor after doctor after doctor, and they wouldn't do anything about it. And it just swelled until it snapped. They never told me it was wrong. They wouldn't take an MRI. They wouldn't do anything until my meniscus completely popped off. And then they're like, oh, and now you need surgery. And then I lose some weight, right? But then they're still saying I need surgery. No. You know what the change was? When I went to I got so desperate for help that I went to an acupuncturist. And I went back to the knee doctor, and he was like, I don't think you're going to need knee surgery because all the swelling in the back was gone. Oh, but they'll tell you on Wikipedia it's junk science. I am so tired. Now I can just see it. I can just see big money. They just want a third of my paycheck. They want me to keep going. Push your doctors for procedures because they're not going to. Fight for it. I had a knockdown, drag out. But because I fought for it, I got one doctor to agree to a procedure, and now I'm going to travel forever to go get it, and I'm going to waste like 4 months of my CRFA. Because doctors want to convert you and get a paper out there and have something to their name and say, I converted them I can do biofeedback. I have no problem with doing it. I will go ahead and do it. But help me in the other ways that you can. Like, give me all that you have. That's your job. Stop giving a morsel here and wait another 6 months till I'm healthy enough to get to you again. And then a morsel till I'm 6 months to get ready to see you again. Because that's how I got sicker and deteriorated over 4 years. And now I'm worse than ever. And I'm getting better now, but because I acted, not because they acted. And I'm glad they're getting their act together. But I encourage you to tape yourself. I really do. I encourage you to tape yourself. Keep a diary, keep going, record yourself. You don't have to post it on YouTube, but take a video diary of your illness and watch it. Have your friends and family watch it, because doctors are supposed to mirror your pain. Like, they're supposed to hear you. Like, when he wasn't listening to me, I finally just said to him, I was like, you need to understand you see me at my best. You see me at my absolute best. When I'm finally able to make it to you, you see me on overdosing on my meds, overdosing to get here, getting at all that I can to get here. You see me propped up. I have all these other meds coming into me, all these supplements to get me in front of you. So you're seeing me at my absolute best. You're not seeing me in my daily horrific pain level. And I was like, let me explain what it's like to you. Imagine every single day, do you know what a level 8 pain is? It's beyond a migraine. It's like having someone slice you with a knife. Just taking a razor and just slice you open in your spine and just slice your body. Just make you bleed every day. Every day. And I don't know why doctors listen, they must charm them so well and give them so much literature saying, just tell your patients they'll get through it. Just help them little by this is best for them, because they make up studies that tell them that. They don't make up studies that say this is the new procedure that will help. This is the new advanced procedure. This is the new advanced thing that will work. Because they used to do procedures. There's a reason oxy and pain clinics didn't exist before. They were doing procedures before, and now they don't even they don't approve procedures. Why do you think that is? He just gave me all this, but well, you don't want to put yourself at risk of like, you don't want to put yourself at risk of like inflammation or what did he say? Like infection or anything. And I was like, F yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I want to put myself in risk. An infection is freaking nothing compared to what I do. I had like 2 infections. How many infections do I have a month already? Because I'm so sick. That's freaking nothing compared to walking again. Are you kidding me? I'm like, have you read my file? I really think that doctors who are going to be pain clinic doctors, they should know that it's just big business. They should know that it was created by the pharmaceutical industry. They should know who was behind it. They should do their research and why they're being encouraged not to do procedures. And they should look at their oath and stop being like, oh, I'll be the better man, and convert them to yoga. He like literally walked out in namaste. And I had fought so hard. And when I was telling him, like, you get sliced in little things and bleed, I swear to God, you guys, he stood there like a wall of ice. Just ice. Like, you know, you really shouldn't be talking this way. Like, talking this way is the reason you're never going to get out of pain. Do you hear it? That's what we hear all the time. It's not mental. Like, it's not mental. They have me on so many meds, you guys. They have me on so many meds that when a nail comes up in our stairs, I walk down the stairs and a nail can go through my foot and I don't even know it. I find out about it like 3 days later. Like, I know that when I'm in a lot of pain, I know that there is outer limit body pain. Because, like, I even after acupuncture, it did so much for me to calm me down and help with the inflammation that then I went, God, it's getting so painful to sit because of my tailbone, because it gets worn out. I want to be able to drive in the car again, and I can't because of my tailbone. I'm so close, and he denied me that. Like, that's not what doctors are for. And I'm saying it because he's he's now like the 35th. And they all told me when I got to the East Coast that, oh, you're where the best doctors are. No. When you hear that phrase, the best doctors, I'm supposed to be at like the places I'm at are like the best research facilities in place. You know what the best research facility means? You know what the best research is? They're the people with the most money. They're the people getting the most funding, which means they're getting the worst cases ever, which means they'll drag out patients the longest, and they will make them the biggest bank. They will make them the biggest bank. And I remember when I first walked into this hospital, this medical hospital, I remember when we first got here, we drove all the way up to Harvard, all the way up there. And we were like, this is our last hope, because after this, we're going to the Mayo Clinic. And they scoffed. They're like, psh. And now, like 4 years later, I'm like, God, if I had just realized that they were just, if I just knew that research facility just meant trail you along and get you on more meds, because, oh God, my meds have increased. Oh yeah, they've increased. Just to gather more research on all these meds, because that's all they're doing is gathering data on how the meds affect me. Oh, they've gotten a lot on that. Have they done anything for my pain? How have my doctors not noticed that my pain level, as a pain clinic, not noticed that my pain level has changed, that my speech is still slurred when they walk in the room? That I started out able to like sit up, and then I've been hunching more and more and more often I come in. How? How does a pain clinic not notice that? Because they're getting great data. Oh, and I'm losing weight, and that's everything, right? It doesn't matter the fact that I'm getting out of bed less. I was way more active when I first moved out here. Oh, yeah, I should have gone to the Mayo Clinic. God, I don't know what it's like over there, but I know they're not the ones getting as much money as these research facilities are. Anyway, that's enough of my rant. I hope it was entertaining for those of you and for those of you who are now watching me for stock trades. Like, congratulations, you'll probably make a lot of money on this one. God, and for those of you who want to donate, please donate, because you know I need it. And please, make the PayPal donations. And for all of you who are new to my channel, like, I know I had a lot of insider friends before, and thank you, God, to them who've not opened, you've been so good about keeping the secret. I'm so proud of you. But there's like a lot of really big people who are watching now that I didn't know before. And I want to really thank those of you who are watching or who are reading me and who have handled my information ethically. Like, I've enjoyed watching your stuff. Like, you make my writing glorious. You make me so happy doing what I do. You make me so proud of the research I've done, because I watch you when you handle it ethically. It's like it makes the writing just take flight. I watch us all grow together, and then I grow from you, and it just edifies me, if that makes sense, when you handle it ethically. I'm so proud of you. I'm so impressed and humbled, like, just floored, of course, at the talent, obviously. You just make me feel so. I'm just up here alone in this house. My friends don't get to visit very often. Some people got to visit this not long ago, and it was so good. But I'm really isolated. Not people don't get. They're so busy. So you guys make me feel so much less alone when you do stuff like that, because I see it on a daily basis. And God, I just love you for that. Thank you for handling it ethically. And to those of you who took care of the ones, like none of my insiders have acted on the people who have not handled it ethically. Like, for those of you who have not handled it ethically, the others who took action on it, God bless you for that, for being boss. Like, I know you're boss already, but some of you I didn't know already, and you've been like boss, and I know who you are, and I just I acknowledge you, and I give you my sincerest respect, and I just, you know, thank you. Never go to your doctors wearing makeup, ever. I got the feeling my last doctor, he said this stuff at the end that made me feel like he was watching my channel or something. Like, right at the end, he said some stuff, and I was like, oh my God, like, because I never wear makeup when I go to the doctor, because I learned that early on, because it makes you look healthy, right? And I'm like, doctors need to see exactly how you are. And I actually learned that from watching little old ladies go to the doctor. Because when I was first going to the doctor, everyone in the doctor's office with me was like 90 years old. You know, I was so sick, and I was having the problems. And everyone in the patient office was like 90 years old and in a wheelchair. But they'd all be like all dressed and made up. And I was just like, oh God, none of them look ill, how's the doctor supposed to know? Like, what's going on with your skin? Like, what's going on with your, like, how are they supposed to know how you're doing? And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, because we go out, we always put our best foot forward. And I was like, they're not dressing up for the doctor, they're just going up to go out. And so my husband and I made a conscious decision that even though it's really hard to do, if we make a doctor's visit, like I have to go barefaced for my medical care. Because it's a lie to my doctors, like I'm not going to get the right medical treatment if I don't. But I'm starting to get the feeling that instead they just look at me like white trash or something. Like, that's just it, because I don't wear makeup. I'm like, would I have been treated better if I had worn makeup? Like, would they have listened to me better if I'd worn makeup? At least, maybe that's the way it would have been here, because that's what they do, is go to parties. Maybe I should have done that in the beginning. But I thought they were real doctors. I thought they wanted to see how my health was. I thought they wanted, doctors in California did that. When I stopped wearing makeup, my medical care changed, and it changed quick. And I was getting really good care out there before I moved out here. And then I've just gotten so much worse. And thank God for the CRFA, because I've gotten better since the CRFA. I need to go. I'm taking up your time. All right. It's been days, and I'm really upset because now I just wasted those 2 months, you guys. And I just had like, walking was just within my grasp. And this pain doctor, like, supposedly, like, you know, in the top of the entire nation, just was like, oh, breathe from your diaphragm, and it does so much for you. And I was just like, my heart rate was at 105/54. I teach breathing from your diaphragm to my students. Like, I already do that. I may not know why it does well, but I already do that. And I paid attention for the last 3 days in my house. And that's all the freaking thing I do, is breathe from my diaphragm. Because my body knew that's how I stay out of pain. I do it out of self-freaking preservation. And it wasn't until he was like, hurry it up, that I started getting excited. Was like desperate, because I have lost my ability to have children. When we first got out here, we were like, look, you know, like, I want to have children, and the place in my abdomen is getting so bad that we're starting to get worried that we might lose the ability to have children, because the bleeding was so bad. And we were getting worried that we were getting to the point, and they did it. They handed me off so much that now they're like it's gone. Like, just as long as they get the money, it doesn't matter if we don't have kids. Like, that's what I really hate about that show, Billions. It programs you to think they all have a heart, and they don't, because they're the freaking people on the Titanic. They're on the top floor, and they don't give a rat's butt about us. And it's so funny, because I have all these insiders, but I'm starting to get to the feeling that, you know how my writing's been collecting, like, all these people, you know how all these really amazing people, you're noticing it, right? So now you see how it happens, right? Like, these big people are drawn to my writing, right? So that's what happened with my books when I wrote my books and I was out in LA. Like, that's how fast it happened. Like, my books just, that's how I got my insider group from writing my books. And that's how quickly it grew. And that's how my network grew at that time. But the thing is that my writing either polarizes you, it either pushes you away. He's used it for evil, and some people on the news have used it for evil. They've used it unethically, and then some people use it for good. And my insiders, I feel like all the people in power are the people, like, all people. The people I've known all the insiders who are good people, and I feel so lucky. So I forget. And I just missed that the Titanic happened. I knew that they were there, but don't you damn believe Billions for a second. Don't you freaking believe it. They're lying to you for a reason, to make sure that you don't pay attention to what's going on in Congress, that you don't pay attention to them, that a Mussolini government is happening, and that fascism isn't happening. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to go see that Adam Schiff radio show that I found out, and just believe what he's saying. Because what they did in season 2, episode 6, what's happening to that town and what those people became, that's exactly what all the peasants had when Mussolini was reigning. And we have a chance with the vote coming up to save us. We're at the brink, and we have a chance to stand for ourselves. And what I mean by that is this: we have all this young blood coming up, all this young blood, and they say they're the golden children and they're all young, but they're using these young kids. If you look into their history, they're all actually elites. They all went to Harvard with Zuckerberg. Young money that actually hasn't employed anybody. Who do you think is funding them? They haven't worked or hired anyone before. They've never worked or gotten their hands dirty. We need businessmen who've hired people like you, or people like you, people who have worked and been employed, who have worked a real job, not been a blue check. We need real people with real jobs in Congress. People like us who have worked, who have their own money. Congress used to be that way. Like they said in California, it's all these people who are like funded people, and then in like Texas, it's like 85% businessmen. But they program us with these shows on billions to think that the businessmen are the evil guys. But I'm like, look at how hard they're fighting against business guys. Why do you think that is? Because they're the ones that aren't bought. And I just feel like we need to start changing our thinking and just do something different. Because it scared me with what confidence Adam Schiff talked. He was on a radio show. He wasn't hiding it. And it scared me with what confidence that doctor could just be like, no, you're not going to walk. Yeah, I see what this thing did for you. And I was like, so let's continue it. Let's do the exact same thing, one tailbone down, because we know we have proof. And he wanted me to be happy about it. Like, he started picking out my words. And we had a brawl because I was like, you have to understand why I'm not happy. Like, I will go with it. I will get the biofeedback, but you can't ask me to be thrilled. You're asking me to not go. When I did a procedure and I know I can walk through a procedure, you're asking me to be thrilled about not getting a procedure. Like, you can't ask me to be emotionally thrilled. Like, you can't ask me. My husband was like, is it this kind of biofeedback or this kind of thing? And I was like, no, I think it's just biofeedback. And he's like, you said just. Why is it just? And I was like, oh my God, he was policing every one of my words. And that's what they do now, is doctors don't listen to you to hear what you're saying. They police every little word, and that's the culture. And guess who taught them to do that? Guess who taught them to police us and our words and our attitude and our emotions instead of caring for our bodies? Who does that sound like to you? Does that sound like the people at the top of the Titanic or the ones riding below? Because we're pre-1913 people. And we got to get back. We got to get back. And I know we can. Fight for yourselves in that office, because I did. And with one of my doctors, it worked. So I have hope. I have hope, but I'm scared because I'm losing out. My time's running out with the CRFA. It's only going to last this long. I'm so close to being able to sit up longer. Like, all I'm able to do is lay down and lift up my legs. Great. I went through 2 months of hell to be able to lift my legs up. Great. No, I want to get in the car and drive around, and all I need is my tailbone to do that now. I know that now. And he denied me that. And I can do biofeedback, but I know that takes time. Oh, and I've also done energy healing when acupuncture works. And energy healing has done so much. It's taken a lot of that pain he was talking about. He thinks my nerves are on overload. Of course they're on overload. But I know enough to know what's actually injured. And I've learned that in my Pilates things, there are things I have to take a lot of them and change a lot of them. But let me tell you, there are things that I cannot do in the Pilates. And I told him about that. I said, I can do all these things in Pilates, but I cannot do this one thing right here in this hip and the tail. I cannot do these things. Right here, there's something really wrong here. And he wouldn't even listen to me about it. He wouldn't listen. He wouldn't take a look at it. He wouldn't feel it. And I was like, there's something wrong here. And every time I do the Pilates, I can do it less and less and less. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And pain is worse and worse. And I scream. And the Pilates is painful. And I'm tough and I can scream. But there's something physically wrong. And why won't doctors believe us when we say there's something physically wrong anymore? Fight back. Fight back against the lobby. That is big pharma and insurance companies. Because we, the people, are strong. That's why they're scared of us. I love you. And please give this a thumbs up. Please give this a thumbs up. Please comment below. And please share with a friend that you know is ill. Share it with them. Share it with your friends and family. Because you're not going to hear this anywhere. You're not going to hear anyone tell this stuff to you. Oh, some news channels are going to take it and run with it and say the research is their own. Don't you want to know where it came from first? Because they're not going to tell you everything. Only I am. I love you guys. Peace out. And check out some videos. I get them up. And now I'm going to go back to bed and live how I actually usually live, which means I have to remove this, get back into bed, and I will spend the rest of my day there. And then when my husband gets home, I'll have him go get the makeup wipes and I'll take this off because it hurts so much to wear it. If only doctors would actually listen when I tell them that, instead of just believing the facade. What happened to do no harm? What happened to the Gone with the Wind doctors? I can't believe that I actually wish I had the doctors from. I can't believe I actually wish I had a vet. And you know why vets actually help the animals out? Because there's no insurance for that. People are actually paying out of pocket. That's why it's different for animals. Procedures aren't done by insurance companies because procedures cost the insurance company. Oh, did I forget to say that? Why they don't do procedures and why they keep us on pills? Because procedures are the one thing that actually cost money. They'd rather get all of our payments and never actually have to pay for a procedure. And so they just mind screw all the doctors and lull them into thinking that procedures are actually bad for us. But I figured it out. I figured out the cost analysis. Maybe I figured it out 20 years after OxyContin. But at least I figured it out. I love you.